But Johnny, let's move on into our second topic, and this one makes sense because if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, you're like, guys, we already know you recorded these out of order, but future self or past self didn't know what was coming up next. So this will lead into what we are doing at the end of the podcast that past self of Johnny Karlic did not know what we were doing and was shocked.
The poor confused boy.
But we are talking about Captain Marvel. And this was a story that we have not been able to talk about since Comic-Con.
Yes.
And the reason why I wanted to bring it up today is because everyone wants to hear about it. It's not like just because it's 2 weeks old doesn't mean, well, we don't want to hear about Captain Marvel anymore. Plus, it's kind of a slow news week for us here on the Rick and Johnny podcast. So here's the question I want to pose to you with Captain Marvel. We know that it's going to be in the 90s, and Nick Fury's going to have both of his eyes. And we know that the Skrull are going to be the main villain. So I'm going to ask you, how will the 90s setting and the Skrulls as a villain affect not just Captain Marvel, but the MCU as a whole? How will all this fit in to the MCU?
Okay, I'm not going to give you my big one just yet. I'm going to start a few little things. First off,
you're going to tease me. I'm
going to tease you. I know. First off, I know you're going to love any.
I love it. I love it. It's in the 90s. I love it.
Well, you love it in the 90s, but I think you're going to love as well. And if they go on any sort of Guardians of the Galaxy route, there's going to be great music for you.
There will.
You love 90s music more than any other.
I love 90s music.
Exactly. That's his bread and butter right there. So, I mean, I know you're going to love it that way.
90s and early 2000s are my jam.
It's going to be cool to see some, at least a younger Nick Fury, as well as finally get an introduction to Captain Marvel, a.k.a. Carol Danvers. Those are both going to be cool, and maybe some like little hints of earlier or not yet superheroes. Pre-Iron Man.
This is going to be before Iron Man.
This is going to be before Iron Man movie came out.
Question.
Yes.
Iron Man came out in 2008. Was that a movie where it came out in 2008? It was set in 2008.
I think it was.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was supposed to be, hey, it's 2008. This is set in 2000. Yeah, it's set in 2008. Sorry, I'm like blanked for a second on the year. No, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
It is this.
So this is going to be before. This is going to be before
the 90s.
Everything.
This is like when you and I were in the single digits of age. So
exactly, because I didn't hit the double digits until the millennium.
Exactly.
Not the millennium, the millennium.
The millennium.
Getting jiggy with it. No.
And there you go.
Getting
See, 90s.
Yeah.
90s music.
That's more of 90s 2000.
Yeah,
it's the millennium.
It's the border.
How many times can I bring up Will Smith in this podcast?
I'm curious to see how many. I just make as many 90s references as you can.
Because we mentioned Will Smith in the DC one. I've mentioned him in the Marvel side.
There you go. Ricky's got to mention him in at least 2 podcasts.
But keep going.
So my biggest thing though is the Skrull invasion.
Okay.
Carol, as they said, it's going to be based in the 90s. It's going to be the Skrull invasions, or at least the Skrull is the enemy. What if it's the Skrull invasion, which means that many of the superheroes we have or we knew right now may not be superheroes at all?
Well, they wouldn't.
They're Skrulls. Part of the secret invasion or the Skrull invasion was that they replaced all these superheroes. So this could completely flip around as I did with the Cord.
So what you're saying is all the heroes that we've known thus far are really Skrull.
Not all of them, but maybe a chunk of them are. This just kind of flips around everything in the universe.
But why would they do that?
I don't know, just make things interesting, or because we're ending everything. This is going to come out after Infinity Wars, which gives us, I don't know exactly why they what to do with that. But I mean,
this isn't the big one? This isn't the one.
This is the one I was bringing up to you.
Is this the big one?
The big one, yeah. The one thing I was going to bring up to you mainly because just think about it. Infinity Wars, at least the first one, is going to devastate a lot of things.
Yes.
And the second one, who knows what that's going to bring about. And then we're going to get Captain Marvel, Secret, the Skrulls, and maybe the Skrull invasion.
Was that your rewinding in your head?
This is me trying to rewind and go back to what I was saying.
Johnny needs a mulligan, so he's going to make that lip sound.
Yeah.
So you got the Skrull invasion.
Skrull invasion, which replaces a bunch of the superheroes, kind of gives us it could be the potential too of, hey, if we want to recast this person, we want to recast this one, they were a Skrull. I mean, I'm not saying Marvel would go with that type of cop out, but it gives us good like.
See,
Hey,
I don't think so. Only because here's two things that I'm thinking of. At this point, Steve is still frozen.
yeah,
We don't know where Steve Rogers is. And Iron Man, when you look at like Thor is off in Asgard. You have Tony Stark is probably a very young boy because of
90s. He was
Because think about
MIT, I think.
would he be? Because if Iron Man took place in 2008 when it came out, that would be almost 18 years ago. If we're talking like 1990,
Well,
that would be like 18 years. I was
remember
18.
Tony Stark's not a young man. He's probably got to be around in his 40s.
In his 40s? So
Yeah.
that means he's in his 20s.
Yeah, so he'd be
Okay.
at MIT.
Okay. So he's MIT in the 90s. Bruce Banner, what would Bruce's timeline be?
Approximately the same, maybe a little bit younger, so he'd still be in college.
He would be nowhere near
He wouldn't be a Hulk yet.
gamma radiation.
No, I'm not saying, but I mean, the Skrull invasion was partially to invade the Earth and reclaim things and make it their own. It's not that they were taking over superhero slots specifically. Well, in this case, in the storyline, they were. But who knows? We don't get the exact storylines there. So
Yeah.
they can just have replaced Tony Stark.
Peter Quill, would Peter Quill be a kid?
He would be in space already. He left in the 80s, remember?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why he likes the 80s music.
Yeah, exactly.
So he would be in space already.
It's just a theory I was going along with, something to play along with.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. And the true thing that I'm thinking of is
Replace Nick Fury?
when they brought up the Skrull,
Yeah.
my first thought was, shit, I don't know how they'd fit into everything.
Yeah.
However, you could also go with the plan of, Ricky, it doesn't matter because after Avengers, and when we get to this point, continuity doesn't matter. We're not going on that single timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
anymore.
We're not doing a continuity thing
Yeah.
anyways either. They said they're not doing that much anymore. And we're going to also have aren't we doing more of a galaxy as
Yeah, they're
opposed
going to
to...
have a cosmic universe.
Yeah, there you go. We're going more of
Yeah.
a cosmic universe. So, I mean, it doesn't 100% matter. But like example, we can replace Nick Fury.
How so?
I mean, no, I'm saying we can actually... A Skrull can replace Nick Fury, and that could be what brings some of this stuff together. I'm just saying it's a potential that they could have replaced people that eventually become something else in the Marvel universe.
Here's something that I'm going to bring up that might debunk this. Though.
Okay.
If people die in Avengers Infinity War, yes, you can say this isn't completely debunking it because maybe the right people didn't die.
Yeah.
But if people die that we expect to have been Skrull, and they're not Skrull when they die, how do we know? Or because I'm trying to think of that, because in Avengers Infinity War, people are going to die.
Exactly.
There are going to be people that die in Avengers Infinity War. And for Captain Marvel in the 90s, I really think that I am leaning towards this might be not necessarily a one-off or a one-shot, but this might be hey, you know what? This is a look at a hero that we have not seen, and we want to do something different. We want to set it up to where, because most of these movies have been taking place in present time.
Yeah. Along a timeline.
The only ones that have really been taking place in the future, I would say, or in the past, is Guardians 2.
Guardians 2
Guardians 2 took place months after Guardians 1.
I think they said a few months after.
So
It's not that long after.
It would be in the past from when
it came out.
Whereas this, hey, let's do that again, but let's go further into the past. Let's go all the way into the 90s before the MCU was ever set up.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And that's where my interesting fact is, because part of me also feels like, is this kind of we've seen Fox do this already with the X-Men.
Yeah.
Where the last film was the 80s. I believe X-Men First Class was the 70s.
60s. Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yes, the 60s. Then I believe we had the 70s, because I know we had the 80s.
Days of Future Past was
the
70s.
The Apocalypse was the 80s.
Yes.
Now we're getting in
90s.
Phoenix Saga. We're getting the 90s, which I can't wait for, because we're going to get my 90s X-Men.
Yep,
and
exactly.
those suits. And I've already seen Cyclops, and I love it. I love it. Can't wait to see it on the big screen. maybe this is Marvel saying, hey, you know what? If they're tapping into that and it's working, let's try that. Now that we're not having a continuity thing, let's try that and let's do that.
Yeah.
This will be the part of the MCU, and I say MCU just because it's a Marvel movie. It's where, we don't have that timeline anymore because we're ending it with Infinity War. Let's tell these different stories. Or it could be a contained story and an origin story for Captain Marvel, because how many people do you think coming in, unless they're super Captain Marvel fans, know the origin of Captain Marvel off the top of their head?
No, exactly. I agree with that. The only reason I was throwing that thing out there earlier was more of an interesting storyline, maybe something that if they wanted to, they can play along with. Doesn't have to work out that way. Never said it did. It's just like more of a theorizing out there.
Your plan backfired on you, right?
Why?
You tried blowing my mind. And see, that's the problem.
Yeah.
When you try to, sometimes it goes right over Ricky's head.
It did.
Like that's the part you got to fear. When you've blown my mind, it has just been snap ideas that make things go off. When you put in actual effort and you try to do it, you risk the fine line of it going, and that's what it did.
Yeah.
That's it. I just wanted to make sure you know that.
Yeah, no, I figured that. It went over Ricky's head.
In fact, when I had to ask, is that it? Is that the big one?
That was the big thing?
The big one? But yeah, I mean, Captain Marvel I am interested for.
So am I.
Only because, like, the Skrull, the only time I've seen them in comics were the Guardians of the Galaxy graphic novels that Mark and I have read. Other than that, have not seen the Skrull in a graphic novel that I have read. Because, yet again, Marvel, I've read far less Marvel than I have DC in my lifetime. And I just don't know how they're going to, if they are going to fit them into, and if they're going to tie Captain Marvel to the cosmic universe.
See, my thing, my way of knowing the Skrull is via the Avengers cartoon on Disney XD. I think it was the earlier ones they did it in. And they were replacing superheroes was more so the thing, but they also replaced politicians and all these other people. That's where I know them from, which is why I thought,
what if they just tried that? Instead of the replacing superheroes, it's the Skrull invasion and you just see them replacing politicians and normal people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're replacing...
Like Bill Clinton gets replaced by a Skrull.
Well, that's the only reason I said, well, they could replace Tony Stark. Super genius, even in MIT. He's a kid that built his first circuit board at the age of 7, I think the movie said. Why wouldn't the Skrull focus on someone like that?
Someone of that brain power?
Exactly. It's like, this kid's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
So let's replace him, and because he would go somewhere. And plus, he's got his dad's Stark Industries to take over that. So that's why the only reason I said, well, they can replace people like that, or the Skrull could have. And they don't have to replace people we know. They can, like you said, they can replace politicians, normal people, or just people of that higher power, stuff like that. So, I mean, I that's why I'm like, well, Secret Invasion would be kind of cool story concept to go with. Maybe not the exact one, just at least some play on it.
I'll ask you this, because you're more the Marvel guy than I am. If they don't go Skrull Invasion, do you have a secondary story they could go?
Playing on the Skrull, since that's our villain, not 100%, except like not a Secret Invasion, but just a general invasion.
Yeah. Because really, that's the only thing that they can do is the Skrull are from outer space, and in order to get to Earth, they would have to invade Earth.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's not much you can work around with that setting.
I mean, obviously, this is going to be an Origins movie as well. We're going to see her get her powers. Because otherwise, why would it be Captain Marvel?
Yeah. I mean, and plus, like I said, not a ton of people are probably familiar with I'm not even super familiar with the Captain Marvel origin story.
I know one of them from, like I said, the cartoon as well. And I don't know if that's the continuity with the comic books, to be honest, because I have not really read a lot about Captain Marvel, except for the fact I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be Miss Marvel in a lot of the stuff, and Captain Marvel is supposed to be Captain Marvel.
Marvel?
Yeah,
all I know,
a Kree scientist. But
all I know is that Captain Marvel used to be Shazam.
Yeah.
Used to be Shazam, and then we stopped using it.
And then Marvel just, whoop, that's ours. Why shouldn't we have Captain Marvel?
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
It does.
It makes sense. I mean, I don't know why DC would have a hero named Captain Marvel. I think Shazam fits him fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Captain Marvel would just be too redundant. He should be in the Marvel Universe.
I mean, how catchy is it? You get struck by lightning after screaming, Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. I like Shazam. That's a lot better of it. But any last thoughts on the Captain Marvel, the supervillain? Because I can't wait. I love the 90s setting, so I can't wait to see it in the 90s.
I think that's probably what you're most excited about.
That is the most excited. Like that and X-Men. That's what I want to see.
I am super excited and curious to see how they're going to play the Skrull into this, because that's the only thing I can think they would do with it is some form of invasion. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing. It doesn't have to be secret, but some form of invasion. Small fleet, something. Yeah. It's got to be something where we're trying to take something of the Earth. Mm-hmm. I really want to know how they're going to play it into it.
Well, this is where we're going to turn the conversation on to you guys, because we want to know what you guys think.
There it is.
How does the 90s setting, how does the Skrull as the main villain, how will it fit into Captain Marvel? Let us know down below what you guys think, because I really am into it to where the 90s setting will be cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be that precursor, kind of pre-MCU kind of feel. But when it comes to the Skrull, I'll be honest, I don't know how they're going to fit in. Like, I feel like maybe the Skrull invasion's the only way to go because it's an invasion. Did I blow your mind now?
No, I thought of something, though.
Okay.
That you and I didn't even think about with this.
Okay.
Nick Fury's going to be in it, and she's in no mention of anything else. So this is going to be super kept under wraps by S.H.I.E.L.D. Just one thing I was going to throw out there.
Yeah, because they never met. Like, usually you hear the little snippets of, like,
this
Captain Marvel. Oh, that's Captain Marvel. Oh, that's Steve. Something like that, where they didn't even mention.
Oh, this is Iron Man.
Let's be honest. Like, back in 2010 and that, they probably weren't even thinking Captain Marvel.
No, they weren't.
But this is something that they could play along with.
Yeah,
S.H.I.E.L.D. kept it under wraps because it was
wraps.
a huge invasion by the Skrull.
Yeah.
That they just kind of swept under the rug. But I want to know what you guys think. Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section.